I woke up in a hospital bed 3 days before Christmas, convinced I had lost everything. My son thought I'd be stuck there for weeks, which meant he believed he had plenty of time to turn my home into his own. But on Christmas morning, I unlocked my front door without telling a single soul I had been discharged. What I saw inside still keeps me awake some nights. Before I tell you what happened, if stories about family betrayal remind you that trust is fragile, I'd appreciate you subscribing to Family Betrayal so you don't miss the next one. And one quick thing, the faces, photos, and scenes you see are only there to help tell the story. They're not real people from my life, just visual storytelling. I'm a 64-year-old widower from Ohio. My wife passed away 5 years earlier, and since then my house had become the last place that still felt like home. Every picture on those walls had a memory attached to it. Every chair still reminded me of conversations we'd shared. My son, Tyler, used to visit every Sunday, and I believed that meant we were still close. Then I suffered a mild heart attack a week before Christmas. The doctors told me I needed rest and observation. Tyler immediately volunteered to take care of the house. At the time, I actually felt grateful. He hugged me before leaving the hospital and promised not to let me worry about a thing. "I'll make sure everything's exactly how you left it, Dad." Those words gave me peace. The first couple of days, he answered my calls. Then he started texting instead. His replies became shorter. "Everything's fine. Just relax. Focus on getting better." Something felt off. On the third evening, my neighbor Linda called instead of texting. Her voice sounded nervous. "Are you expecting company at your house?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "There are cars parked outside every night. Young people. Loud music. I figured maybe your family was having an early Christmas." My stomach tightened. Tyler never mentioned anyone staying over. When I called him, he laughed. "Oh, it's just a couple friends helping me clean up the place." Helping him clean, at 10 o'clock at night? His answer didn't sit right with me, but I didn't have proof he was lying. The next morning my doctor surprised everyone by clearing me to leave much earlier than expected. Tyler never answered when the hospital tried calling him for pickup. So I smiled, thanked the nurse, ordered a taxi, and decided I'd let myself into my own house. I had no idea that Christmas morning was about to expose a betrayal far worse than I could have imagined. The closer the taxi got to my neighborhood, the harder my heart pounded. I kept telling myself Linda had probably misunderstood. Maybe Tyler really was cleaning the house. Maybe I was letting fear get the best of me. But when the driver turned onto my street, I immediately noticed 4 unfamiliar cars parked in my driveway and along the curb. My garage door was halfway open, and I could hear music before I even stepped onto the sidewalk. I unlocked the front door as quietly as I could. The smell hit me first. Beer, cigarette smoke, burned food. My living room looked like it belonged to strangers. Empty pizza boxes covered my coffee table. My late wife's handmade Christmas quilt was thrown across the floor with muddy footprints all over it. Someone had moved our family photos off the shelves and replaced them with video game consoles and speakers. For a second, I couldn't even breathe. Then I heard laughter upstairs. I walked toward the staircase, gripping the railing because my legs felt weak. As I reached the top, a bedroom door opened and a young man I'd never seen before walked out wearing nothing but sweatpants. He stared at me like I was the one who didn't belong there. "Who are you?" he asked. I looked him straight in the eyes. "I'm the man who owns this house." His face went completely pale. Within seconds, doors started opening all down the hallway. 5 more young adults stepped out, each looking more confused than the last. One girl whispered, "Tyler said his dad was staying in rehab until after Christmas." Those words cut deeper than my heart attack ever had. Before I could answer, Tyler rushed out of my master bedroom. He froze the moment he saw me standing there. His smile disappeared. "Dad, what are you doing here?" I couldn't believe he had the nerve to ask me that. "What am I doing here?" I said quietly. "The better question is, what are all of you doing in my home?" No one spoke. The silence was so heavy I could hear the Christmas music still playing downstairs. Tyler finally shrugged like this wasn't a big deal. "You weren't supposed to be back yet." I felt something inside me break. Not because strangers were sleeping in my house, but because my own son had planned everything around my absence. He hadn't just borrowed my home. He had counted on me not returning. One of his friends slowly looked around and asked, "Tyler, you told us this place was basically yours." Tyler wouldn't even look at me. That's when I realized this wasn't a last-minute mistake. It had been planned from the beginning. And what I found in my home office a few minutes later proved this betrayal had started long before I ever went to the hospital. I pushed past Tyler without saying another word. My hands were shaking, but it wasn't from the heart attack anymore. It was anger. Pure anger. I walked into my home office, praying I wouldn't find anything worse than a mess. I was wrong. The filing cabinet where I kept my important documents was unlocked. Every drawer had been opened. Papers were scattered across my desk, like someone had searched every inch of my life. My property tax records, insurance papers, bank statements, and even my will had been pulled out. One folder sat open in the middle of the desk. My will. I picked it up and noticed fresh fingerprints all over the pages. Tyler had never even known where I kept it. Looking for something? I asked without turning around. He stood quietly in the doorway. I was just trying to get things organized. I laughed, but there wasn't a bit of humor in it. Organized? You went through every private document I own. He didn't deny it. Instead, he finally admitted what he had been thinking. I just wanted to know what would happen if your health got worse. Those words hit harder than any punch ever could. So while I was lying in a hospital bed wondering if I'd see another Christmas, you were checking what you'd inherit? He looked at the floor. I didn't mean it like that, but that's exactly how he meant it. Before I could say another word, one of his friends stepped into the office. He looked embarrassed. Sir, I think you should know something. Tyler immediately snapped, "Stay out of it." The young man ignored him. Tyler told all of us you were moving into assisted living after the holidays. He said you wanted him to take over the house, so we agreed to split rent with him. We've already been paying him every month. I stared at my son. Rent? The friend nodded slowly. We each gave him $600. He said it would help cover the mortgage. There was no mortgage. I'd paid this house off nearly 15 years ago. Tyler had collected thousands of dollars by lying to everyone, his friends and me. For the first time that morning, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was disgusted. His friends began looking at each other with growing anger. They realized they'd been scammed too. One by one, they apologized to me. A young woman carefully folded my wife's quilt and placed it back on the couch. Another started gathering trash without being asked. Then Tyler exploded. This is my family. Stay out of it. I looked him in the eye. No, Tyler. Family doesn't wait for their father to end up in a hospital so they can act like he's already gone. I took out my phone. He suddenly turned pale. Who are you calling? I met his eyes without blinking. The people who can help every one of us figure out exactly where all that rent money went. His confidence vanished instantly. And what happened after that phone call changed our family forever. The moment Tyler realized I wasn't bluffing, the fight drained out of him. He reached for my arm. Dad, please. We can fix this without getting anyone else involved. I gently pulled away. No, Tyler. You had plenty of chances to fix it before I walked through that front door. One of his friends spoke up. I want my money back. Another nodded. So do I. Within seconds, everyone in the house was demanding answers. Tyler couldn't keep his story straight anymore. He admitted he'd been collecting rent for almost 4 months, telling everyone the house was practically his because I'd be moving into assisted living after Christmas. He spent most of the money on vacations, expensive electronics, and nights out. Not once had he asked me if any of it was true. As his friends packed their belongings, several apologized again. They helped clean every room before they left. One young woman even placed my wife's Christmas ornaments back on the tree exactly where she'd found old pictures showing they belonged. By sunset, the house was finally quiet again. Tyler stood alone in the living room, surrounded by boxes that no longer belonged there. I never thought you'd come home today, he whispered. I looked around at the walls that had witnessed every birthday, every Christmas, every memory my wife and I had built together. That's the saddest thing you've said all day, I replied. You weren't hoping I'd recover. You were hoping I'd stay away. He started crying, but for the first time in my life, his tears couldn't erase what he'd done. I told him he had 1 hour to pack everything that belonged to him. He handed over the remaining rent money, promised to repay every dollar he had spent, and left my house before Christmas dinner. Months passed before we spoke again. He found a steady job, paid back every one of his friends, and slowly repaid me as well. He apologized more than once, but trust doesn't return with an apology. It returns through years of honest actions. Today, our relationship is polite, but it will never be what it once was. Some doors can be reopened, but they never close the same way again. That Christmas taught me something I'll never forget. The greatest inheritance a parent can leave isn't a house or money, it's character. And if character is missing, no amount of inheritance will ever fill that emptiness. If you were in my place, would you have given your son another chance, or would you have walked away for good? Tell me what you honestly think in the comments, because I'd really like to hear your perspective. If this story touched you, share it with someone who believes family should never take trust for granted. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Family Betrayal for more true lifestyle stories about loyalty, heartbreak, and the moments that change families forever. Until next time, take care of the people who earn your trust, and never ignore the warning signs when they don't.